She's not what you'd expect. She's tough and feisty, but gentle and tender. She makes millions and gives millions to the poor. She cries, she laughs, she teaches, she comforts. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
Welcome to the Dani Johnson Show. We hope that today your day already is going off the way exactly that you want it to. You know, here on the Dani Johnson Show, every single day we bring you content as well as inspiring stories of people who have started from a place where things were not going so well, and yet they were able to find a path, use some simple strategies, and change every area of their life. That's exactly where our guest today, Roach, found himself. Could you imagine being $250,000 worth of debt? Now, one person just sat there and said, oh my gosh, that would just be death to me. And somebody else says, I wish that's all I had was $250,000 worth of debt. Listen, no matter where you're at on the debt scale, whether it is you got a whole lot or just a little, today, Nike's story is going to inspire you tremendously. You know, you can be on a path and not even realizing that you're heading yourself to destruction because we're so busy living out our lives that we're not really paying attention to actually all that's going on, maybe with the kids, maybe with the marriage. And we just kind of settle into a high stress lifestyle and not even knowing what is causing all the pressures on us. And here on the Dani Johnson Show every single day, we are challenging your definition of success because more than likely you have been polluted like I had been by the rest of society that seems to tell us that success means a big house, lots of brand new cars, eating out all the time, shopping till we drop, vacationing wherever it is that we want to, all on our credit cards, and do it because that's what everybody else is doing. Well, I'm here to tell you that is not success. That actually is awful. That's bondage. It is painful. It is a suffering, and you are held captive to bill collectors who are calling you or constantly sending you bills that maybe you didn't think you were going to get somehow, even though you knew what you were charging at the time that you charged it. Well, if that's where you find yourself, here every day, we are challenging you to redefine success for you. What do you want out of life? What matters most to you? What is your skill set, your gifting, your talent that you have naturally? And how are you using that to better humanity? Well, we're going to dive deep into Nike's story right now. He's all the way from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Been there. Cute little city, beautiful place, wonderful people. We've got some friends out there. In fact, this show plays in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and has been, the Dani Johnson Show has been carried out there on Truth Network for, gosh, I think it's 4 or 5 years now. Nike, we're excited to have you. If you can, just kind of give people a breast of your story, kind of in 30 seconds up to maybe 60 seconds, prior to stumbling on the website, DaniJohnson.com. In fact, how did you even hear about the website?
Sure. Thank you very much, Dani, and allowing me to speak on your show today. Before I found Dani Johnson, or actually it found me, I was working about 60, 70 hours in the healthcare industry, and I just have swallowed the American nightmare. I was working. I had a home. It was way beyond. The county was actually about to take our property, and I had a whole bunch of debt from education, credit cards, medical bills, and a whole host of other things that just kind of affected our life. And so a dear friend who is also a business owner came in contact with me and said, have you ever heard of this Dani Johnson? And, of course, I said, no, she's crazy, she's nuts. And there's probably a cult out there. And then I found Dani Johnson, and I feel so honored and privileged that she didn't let me get away with just saying she's crazy and anything like that. So I'm very thankful to Bonnie, who's a dear friend of mine.
Wow. So a friend of yours, a business associate, introduced you to the website, DaniJohnson.com, and then what happened? I mean, so here you're suffering out of this crazy debt. So are you saying that your house was about to be repossessed?
Oh, yeah. The county had already started sending me bad letters, and it was in the middle of the winter.
Oh!
So we didn't even have enough money to pay for the heating bill. At the time, we had our young son, our firstborn, And so, we bundled up, my wife and I. We had a newborn. We bundled up. We had a house, nice big house, and we didn't have any money to even afford to do that. So that we thought, and so we put one of the little space heaters, bundled up together, and that pretty much was our reality for a little while.
Okay, so hold on, Nikkei. So you have this big, beautiful house, right?
Yeah.
You have a great career in the healthcare profession. Mm-hmm. You have the big education along with the big student loans to go with it.
Yes.
You're driving nice. You're wearing nice. But you guys are bundled up next to a space heater in this gigantic house because you can't afford to heat the house.
That is correct.
And the county is about to take the keys to your house and kick your booty out on the street. Oh my gosh. Now, dude, you realize there's so many people. I want to know, how did it feel every day living in that set of circumstances? As a husband, as a father, you know what I mean?
It was extremely stressful, and that's how I tacked up a lot of those medical bills. Was I kept going to the hospital thinking I was having a heart attack.
Wow.
And so you keep going over to the emergency room at somewhere between $1,600 to $2,000 a pop. We didn't have insurance, so that was added on to bills and bills and bills. And so when you wake up in the morning and your chest is like somebody's slamming you. Your wife says, "We're getting in a car." Luckily for us, the hospital's close by, so we went to the emergency room, and they put all these things on you, and they tell you, "No, you're not having a heart attack. You're having an anxiety attack."
Oh my gosh, Nikkei. Okay, now how old were you when this was going on?
You just had to age me right there, didn't you? So
you had just had a newborn baby.
Yeah, I was in my 30s. So.
In your 30s. So in your 30s, you feel like you're having heart attacks.
Sure.
You're running back and forth to the emergency room because you just know that you're having a heart attack. And all of that anxiety and all that pressure on your chest, I've had that before. It feels like you've got an elephant sitting on your chest.
Yes.
It's hard to breathe. You can feel your heart just bam, bam, like pounding outside of your chest. It's a very scary, scary feeling. So as a man, the provider of the household, what were you thinking at that time?
Ooh, there's a lot of things, and a lot of them usually end with a curse word, but not on regular radio. I was thinking, there's got to be a way out of this. There's got to be a solution. And I was, thinking, okay, well, we're not making enough money. Maybe I'm not smart enough or something like that. Mm-hmm. Or maybe I'll get another job, but 60, 70 hours a week, it's really kind of hard to add a second job in there. So I was kind of scrambling and started looking around for a couple other options. And a friend of mine just told me, and I said, yeah, whatever. But I'm so thankful. There are people in my life, like yourself, who really don't let me get away with saying, that's not for me. So people who sometimes were little agitators, like you, you're my daddy, who won't let me get away with that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm very thankful to those folks and God above for allowing those people to never let me get away with saying, I can't afford it, it's not for me, I'm not interested.
Right. Okay, so did you think that God was punishing you, when you're living in that big house and you can't keep your newborn baby warm and, the county's going to take your house away and you think you're having a heart attack, you're making these trips to the hospital. Did you think that God was punishing you, or did you think that it was somebody else's fault? Or did you actually come to the revelation of, I should have never bought this house? Do you know? Because most people never get there. They always blame someone else. So I want to know, where were you in this equation? Who were you blaming?
I was the third one. I was like, God, I shouldn't have bought this house.
You were.
I really should not have bought this house. I kind of came to that conclusion, and my wife was like, "Oh, we should have never bought this house." And I take the responsibility. And I took the responsibility early and said, I allowed a salesperson to, and I take full blame for that, but I allowed myself to sell me a bill of goods, and it was something I really didn't need. And prior to that, I wasn't really in debt.
Oh, crap. So it was the house.
It started with the house.
Wow.
Once I got the house, it's like, it just kind of started kind of an avalanche. So
yeah, you got to buy furniture. You got to buy new appliances, right?
House.
You can't have your old junky car in the garage of that new house.
No.
And you now have to dress your body the way that you dress your house.
Well, yes. You have to join clubs, and you have to join various social groups and stuff like that.
You have to be kidding me!
I kid you not, sister. I kid you not. You put on the mantle of a nut bag after that. It's like, oh gosh, please save me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you hear about DaniJohnson.com, and what happened?
Okay, so you know a little bit about, I at first, honestly, and I've said this before, I thought you were crazy and that you were a cult leader. So, but when I went there, I didn't have any money to go. I mean, we were broke. I mean, we were really, really broke.
Yeah.
Broke. And so it was in Chicago, as a matter of fact. And it was in April, I think, or sometime, actually around this time when we went. And we were going to get on a plane, but I'm not going to get to tell the story. We ended up driving to Chicago because the plane went cuckoo, and then we just drove there. My wife and I went there for the first time. We got connected, and we listened to some recording first before we got there. And then eventually my friend kept checking in to make sure I was okay and said, let's go to Chicago. And she didn't make it that time, but my wife and I, Nikki, made it. And it was about a 14-hour drive from North Carolina, which was by far the longest road trip I'd ever done.
So what happened after First Steps? What are the results that you've gained?
Okay. After First Steps, my mind was like blown, and I was freaking out. I was, I bought some of the CDs, and we listened to those. At the time, it was called Live in North Carolina, and so we listened to Live in North Carolina because I'm from North Carolina, so it just made sense to me. And so we started listening to it, and we immediately started to have a fight.
So you came out of First Steps, and on the drive home, you're fighting with your wife.
We're fighting.
Awesome.
Because I'm like, let's do this thing. I'm ready to. My wife is like, no, we can't do that. We're not gonna do that. I'm like, oh gosh, and I'm like stoked. I'm like ready to do this. But my wife is like, are you crazy? Have you been smoking something? And so we were like kind of arguing a little bit on the way back because I was like, I am ready to sell that house. I mean, I was ready when I left, but it took a few more first steps to actually eventually get out of that house.
Wow. So that was one of the first things.
My wife hated the house.
She hated the house, but she didn't want to sell the house.
She didn't want to sell it. She hated that thing. It was big. It was cold. It was impersonal. She hated it. It was the neighborhood. It just got kind of weird. She's like, I hate this. But she didn't want to get rid of it. And a little bit of ego on my side, too. And I had an ego. It was the biggest house we ever owned.
I love it. Okay, when we continue, we're going to hear not only the sale of the house, but also what happened with the rest of that debt. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more right after this.
Be sure to tell a friend about the Dani Johnson Show. It just might be the key to the breakthrough they need. Stay right here for more of the Dani Johnson Show.
Imagine living in a decrepit, unsafe hovel made of waste material on top of old mining tunnels that could explode and sink your home at any moment. Imagine no water to drink, no safe place to raise your children, no food for your starving baby. Imagine that your kids can't learn to read because they have to work to support the family instead of going to school. Could you imagine living in that kind of fear and hopelessness? This is exactly what families are dealing with in the poverty-stricken village of Santa Pancha, Nicaragua. These families can barely meet their basic food, water, and housing needs. We are transforming that village. Be a part of this miracle. I want you to go to the website now and learn how you can help. Go to kingsransom.org and click on Santa Pancha. There you can join with other warriors against poverty and help bring a miraculous transformation to Santa Pancha. That's kingsransom.org, kingsransom.org. This is your chance. This is your shot. Get your copy of War on Debt right now. There's one waiting for you that has your family's name on it. And inside that package is freedom. Your freedom, your family's freedom is on the inside of that package. All you have to do is open it up, press play, and start applying what I teach you in this program. 888-757-8880. You and I are going to help your family become completely debt-free in the next 5 to 7 years. Just imagine how that's going to feel.
This is the Dani Johnson Show.
Could you imagine you bought a house you should have never bought? Have you ever done that? Okay, well, but see, don't feel so bad because you have been sold by our society that that's what success looks like. And you know what? If that's what you did, you kind of have to come to that place where Nike and Nikki Roach both came to after attending First Steps to Success. They both realized we have got to ditch this giant house that we should have never bought, that we can't even heat. We have all this debt climbing in, and they're going to try to foreclose our house right now. We have to make a change, and we have to make the change now. So joining me for this next segment, Nikki Roach. He has an incredible story. You know what? I love your transparency, dude. Your transparency is awesome. You're not holding anything back. Ego is so out of the way. The humility is so here of the mistakes that you made financially. And now this is how you corrected it. You guys have been to how many First Steps to Success training seminars and creating a dynasties?
Every time I get that, I was like, I don't even know how many we've been to. Mm-hmm. We've been to a lot.
A lot.
We've been to a lot.
Yeah. Couple dozen, somewhere around that range.
Easily.
Yeah. Okay, so now what have you done with your debt? How much debt have you paid off? What's going on now with the family?
Okay, so we've increased our family.
You made more babies.
Yeah, we have 3 now. So we started with 1. We're up to 3 now. So
wow.
We have the 3 boys, and I feel honored and privileged to be a father and a husband to them.
Yeah.
And so we sold the house, obviously, and we got really, really, really conscious about our debt. And we just started paying it off with a quickness. I mean, I was walking to the bank, and just as almost like a psychological thing, I didn't mail it. I actually walked to the bank and felt really good. I was smiling. Usually I'm hiding from debt collectors. I'm actually smiling to give them $100. I'm smiling to give them $500. I'm like grinning, and she said, "Why are you smiling?" I said, "I'm paying you guys off." So it becomes like an addiction, really.
Yes.
It just becomes like crazy nuts. So they got rid of the house, got rid of the cars, bought some piece of car, but it gets us from point A to point B. We bought them for cash. We got rid of our credit cards. We did the war on debt, cut those up. We got really, really small. And then what we did recently, we went and we purchased a house that was more in line of what we did. We used your methodology of purchasing a house, buying the dump in the neighborhood, which we did. My wife she is a hunter. And she had been looking for about 3 years. Nice. 3 years for a house. And we were praying, and then we saw one, and it was like, how much is that thing? And it was a dump in the neighborhood.
Yes.
we purchased that sucker. My wife loves it.
Awesome.
It still requires some more fixing up, but she loves doing that. And we have paid off, I think, and she'll probably know a little bit closer to what it is, probably about 230 right now.
Wow.
Paid all off, and we do get to go on more vacations now. I get to see our boys. I love our boys. I love being a father because my biological father was not in our lives. I had my dad, who was a wonderful man, but you just sometimes feel a little disappointed when your biological father's not there.
Yeah.
And I never met him. And I remember reading and hearing this story, and I cannot remember where I heard from. Be the dad you always wanted to have. So I'm kind of trying to do that. So, and I have a beautiful bride, and we date on a regular basis. Thank you for your training on how you and your husband do it. And so just our life is, we feel just fortunate. We feel blessed, fortunate, privileged that we went through the muck.
Yes.
And that we're on the other side of it.
Amen.
And we continue to inspire other people. We wrote a crazy book. I'm not going to plug it too much, but it was just nutty. And it was I literally got the inspiration from standing in line at First Steps to Success. I'm standing in line using what you taught us at First Steps to Success, how to interview people, how to honor, how to listen. And they just told us stories, and we just kind of put it in the book. And so thank you for your inspiration, because the profits, 100% of the profits, go to charities in our community, as well as Call to Freedom and
King's
a number of
Ransom.
other charities. So it's really fun to really give. I used to be really selfish. I'll be honest. I'm kind of Ruby-ish, so it was kind of selfish. And we do a lot more giving now, and we receive a lot more. So I learned that it's a good technique to be able to grow both spiritually, personally, and financially.
Amen. Amen. Nikki, thank you so much. And congratulations, you're now an author. You have joined the club of authors, which is awesome. This is amazing, seriously, to go from that level of financial failure and failing as a husband for provision and having all that debt to paying off over $230,000 worth of debt in that time, being able to spend more time with your family, your wife, and you becoming an investor. You know, buying the dog in the neighborhood is a wise investment. I know somebody's like, what? Why would I want to do that? It's wise because let the other big houses carry that house. You automatically have a higher value when you fix that house up. Nikki, I'm proud of you. Say hi to Nikki and the boys. God bless. Thanks for joining us. We'll continue with more right after this.
Coming up next, can you imagine raising